Yes, everyone, welcome back to the channel. Stephen Howson, a little bit of a transfer talk. We are deep into the January window, although at Manchester United you could be forgiven for thinking that that isn't the case because it feels like there's not been too much going on. There has been a lot of news swirling around about Marcus Rashford. There's been some news kicking up a little bit about Kobbie Mainoo. I did touch on that with Ronaldo yesterday, but I'm going to cover that again this morning, and I'm going to maybe look into a little bit of the reasons why all of that's kicking off in the manner that it is. And it's on several levels, it's disappointing. But let's get into what's going on. So AC Milan have proposed a loan deal for Rashford from United, obviously, with discussions focusing on the feasibility of a move. Rashford's representative have held talks with Milan, indicating a move could be on the cards, especially with his salary potentially being subsidized by United, which appears to be the case. I'm just going to refresh this page here in the background because I'm not sure if it's actually put me live. Has it? Looks like it did. It was showing all sorts of issues on there. Never mind. Besides Milan, there's also some interest from Borussia Dortmund and supposedly Juventus, although Juventus has come and gone, so I don't know how legit that is. Milan does appear to be leading the discussions for a loan move. No deal is confirmed yet. Rashford's wage is obviously going to be a significant stumbling block for whoever it is that potentially takes him on. So let us know your thoughts on what's going on with that one. And then let's talk a little bit about what's going on with Mainoo. So Mainoo's reportedly unhappy with the initial terms that United have offered for a new contract. His current deal's got ages on it, 2027, with an option to extend for a +1. And there have been no significant developments on a new contract. This situation has supposedly put Chelsea on alert as a potential suitor if Mainoo decides to leave. Chelsea are said to be leading the race for him, but it does not. If he does not extend his contract with United, we're talking years down the line. So he's not going to go on a transfer, I wouldn't have thought. This is obviously just a issue when it comes to negotiating a new contract. But Mainoo's potential exit is seen as a bit of a concern for fans, as you can imagine, given his emergence as one of the most important players in the squad. There is so-called no concrete progress towards a transfer with Chelsea, and the situation is described as a stalemate in contract negotiations. Now, United's financial constraints, particularly when it comes to profit and sustainability rules, might force us into selling homegrown talents like Mainoo because of the way they exist as pure profit. Similar to what happened with McTominay. But also that could put the likes of Garnacho and to a greater or lesser extent the likes of Rashford up for sale as well. Now, I did touch on this the other day, yesterday, where I was saying this isn't a positive thing. You know, whatever the reason for the profit and sustainability coming in, it's kind of in the title, isn't it? Whatever the reasons for that coming in were, they can't have foreseen and surely can't have wanted the fallout of clubs being forced into selling their academy graduates as a consequence. That's not good for football. That's not good for the Premier League. That's just not good, full stop. So it's not something I would like to see continue, not something I would like to see develop. And, you know, these rules do evolve. They can stick around and they can just be as they are, but these rules do evolve. We'll have to see what the eventual fallout of all of these sorts of things are, but it feels like the wrong thing, doesn't it, really? And, you know, I'm probably going to do a video later in the week looking at what's going on with INEOS and Jim Ratcliffe. I'm seeing people refer to Jim Ratcliffe as Jim Glazer. He's just the same as the Glazers, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing, lads. Jim Ratcliffe has put his own money into the club. The Glazers never did that. What Jim's doing, and I don't agree with me, this isn't me defending him. This is me explaining what's going on. I think Ratcliffe and INEOS have come in, opened the books, looked around and gone, Jesus Christ, this is worse than we thought. The Glazers created this mess. And the Glazers, I don't think, had any intention of fixing this mess. I think they were just kicking it down the road, banging it on credit cards, refinancing whenever we needed to, and just ignoring the issue that's coming home to roost right now because the likes of INEOS and Jim Ratcliffe want us to be successful and competitive. They're hamstrung by the way the Glazers have run the club over the last 20 years. That's my belief on this. And because Jim is now the face of the club, and listen, we've heard Jim speak more in the last 12 months than the Glazers have in 20 years. Because he cares, I believe. Like I said, I don't agree with everything that he's done, and I think some of the stuff that he's done has been very short-sighted and unnecessary. I think the optics of some of the things that he's done didn't need to be done. But he's doing it because of the situation that the Glazers have put us in 20 years ago and then never bothered to rectify. So I'll probably do a video exploring it in a little bit more detail, but I think calling him Jim Glazer is just wrong, to be honest with you. And then all of the people going, we should have had Qatar. Oh, because we had a fucking choice. And Qatar might not have even been real. And here's the thing. Qatar had the opportunity the same way Jim Ratcliffe had the opportunity to buy us, and they didn't. So stop fucking crying, because they had the same opportunity to buy us as Jim Ratcliffe did. And if they wanted to, they could have bought the full fucking club. If they wanted to and they were real. Now, we don't know if either of those things are the case. MK655 says, bye-bye Mainoo, dead player anyway. You should probably spend some time learning about football. Isaac says, Mainoo wants out for sure. I don't think he does want out for sure. This kind of came up with the links to City last year. I don't think that's the case. Stephen says, we didn't want the club to carry being around the way it was. It isn't. We need to deal with it. Yeah, there's going to be some pain in fixing the issues that they've left us with. Kevin says, remember it came out that Fiorentina were going to sell Batistuta and the fans broke into the stadium and tore up the pitch. Are we thinking of doing something similar if United sell Mainoo? Linda says if they wanted to, they would have bought the club. Correct. They got the PR that they were looking for by just being linked with us, I think. Steve says the money should have cleared the debt, not gone into the Glazers' pockets. Yeah, it should have done. You're absolutely right. It should have done. But they also shouldn't have been allowed to put a leverage buyout on a football club and make the football club pay for that either. But they did. Brett says the only way to make money from United is the land they own. Build a new stadium, and the pubs, hotels, houses that will be built along with the stadium is where the money is. Timmy says, we're rubbish. These players shouldn't demand anything. See, that's... Tim, you have to be real about this, right? And you have to be mature about this. Football players earn a lot of money. They earn money that might as well not even be called money, because it's not what regular people like me and you are going to earn ever in our lives. I don't know how much Mainoo's on. He would have been on, I think it's 70 grand a year, which is still a lot of money, right? As an academy player. When he signed that pro deal, whenever it was, a year ago, about... when he basically broke into the first team, he signed a new contract. That contract, I think, is somewhere in the region of 20 grand a week. Now, Mainoo's basically the same kind of profile of a player as Lenny Yoro, someone that we paid 60 million for, and we probably put him on 100, 150 a week, something along those lines. Technically, he deserves the same sort of treatment as Lenny Yoro does, because the same profile of player within the squad. He's young, he's got potential, he could be here for 10 years. Now, I'm seeing people saying he's asked for 200 grand a week. Has he? Like, who has said that? Hobbs says he means 70 grand a week, not year. He was mistaken. No, he would have been on 70 grand a year. As an academy player coming through, your first pro deal, all of them basically get the same thing. It's 70 grand a year. 1,500 quid a week. That's what they get. And then, not all of them are on that. I believe Callum Gribbin was on about 250, because some players come through with a different profile. So, it's not necessarily universal, but it's certainly not 200 grand a week. And I don't know if he is asking for 200 grand a week. Where's that come from? And like David says, Mainoo can't be asking for 200k a week. I don't think he is. I don't think he will be. But I reckon he's looking for a significant rise on probably what I expect is around about 20k a week. And there's a long way to go from 20 to 200. And let's be real, it probably lands somewhere in the middle. Gareth says, Ratcliffe isn't at United for charitable reasons. He bought it to make money. The long game is the land and the money from the redevelopment aided by government. So let's get real. Gareth, he's not old enough to be in it or young enough to be in it for the long game. I think he is genuinely in it for the success. I think he's made a fucking right load of money. And I don't believe he's involved in Manchester United to turn a profit. I think he genuinely values the success of the club. Now, he's not going to be ridiculous. He can't just fund it like an oil-backed nation could fund it. But I think he's in there for largely the right reasons. Alien says, if we play like we did against Liverpool, we will smoke Arsenal on Sunday. Let's hope we use a different ball, after that. Robert says, if you're Mainoo, you're absolutely concerned. You are absolutely concerned you didn't renegotiate your contract before Ratcliffe takes over. Now Kobbie looks left and right in the dressing room and knows his worth. I don't think you're concerned that you didn't sign it before he came in, because when he was signing his original kind of first team deal was only just he was only just breaking into the first team, and Jim wasn't the owner, so it's one of them, isn't it? Notch says, aren't all clubs in essence open to offers for every player? It just gets blown out of proportion when it's United. Yeah, probably. Apnu says, a yearly contract negotiation for a talent academy player growing in his role is normal. It's on Barada now to negotiate a reasonable contract improvement. Yeah, it wouldn't be news if it was anywhere else. Leon says the right reasons would have been to let Qatar have it. No, it wouldn't, though. It wouldn't, though. You lose all complete identity, right? Why do you support Manchester United? Why do you support Manchester United? If it's not the local connections, the fact that it is the club that it is with the history that it is, why would you allow it to be that? Why would you allow it to be the sports washing face of another nation? My personal belief is nations should not own sports teams. That's my personal belief, especially when they're using it to wash their image publicly. That's... No, in your opinion, Qatar having it would have been one thing. Here's the thing. Qatar had the opportunity and chose not to. People need to stop talking about Qatar like it fucking happened, because it didn't happen. We were up for sale. They didn't buy us. So it's very, 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 very easy to sit there and say Qatar would have done X, Qatar would have done Y. Qatar didn't do shit. How about that? Townsend said, the club have briefed the media that FFP are on our arse. That means homegrown players could be sold for profit. It's normal. Mainoo just happens to be a homegrown player and creates news. Yeah, I also think it's probably a little bit on his agent playing silly bastards with trying to create a little bit of interest and scare United into hurrying the deal up. Alex says Qatar couldn't buy players because of our PSR anyway. Correct. Gerard says players should be held accountable against their performance, and their pay structure should be affected positively, negatively. Luke Shaw being paid to sit at home playing Call of Duty. Now, I completely, and KM says you on Jim's payroll. How? Explain how. I mean, you not see the video they did the other week called The Dark Truth about Jim Ratcliffe, right? Fuck me. No, I'm just trying to give you a bit of a balanced overview of what's going on, and that all I've said about Qatar is facts. They had the opportunity. They did not buy us. End of story. Notch says, we don't know if Jassim would have done anything. He's another banker like Woodward. What does he know about running the club? People just think throwing money at it would have solved X, Y, and Z. Going back to what someone mentioned earlier about players being paid, it was Gerard there, players being held accountable against their performance. I think every club in the world would like to do that, but then one club will break the structure and they will get all the best players. If Manchester United, let's say I'm in charge at United and I say, right, lads, you lot are only getting paid when you play well. Some players will go sound and they'll be confident in their own abilities, and then some players will be like, I'm not signing. I'm going to leave and I'm going to go Chelsea because they'll just pay me every week. Now, you might think, well, good riddance, bad attitude. But you won't be able to recruit players to be able to compete because of that. It's just the sad reality of it. Like, yeah, in an ideal world, yes, you'd be able to pay your players based on performance. We don't live in an ideal world, and that's the top and bottom of it. Ahmad says Qatar would have got rid of the debt, so yes, they would have bought players. No, it doesn't work like that. Owner funding doesn't count towards it. Like, there's a restriction on how much owner funding you're allowed to put in. Simple. Unless we were sponsored by Qatar Airways to the tune of every billion in the world. It's not that simple, mate. Castro says, look at PSG. What have they... They haven't won the Champions League with the money they have. Yeah, literally Qatar money. They got Messi and Neymar and Mbappe up front, and it ruined the culture of them. Like Oliver says, Qatar does not change the PSR situation. You can see how that's changed the way it's worked at Newcastle. Thank you. Do you know what? I'm so thankful that there is a couple of people, at least in this chat, that have got a fucking brain. Because it made me worry at times. Ant says, so compensate with big performance bonuses and such. If the players believe in themselves, it shouldn't be an issue. No, again, mate, I totally agree. And in an ideal world, that's exactly how it works. But do you think any agent is going to sit there with a player and be like, let's sign this deal? No, because the fucking agents run the game. Agents want their 15%. So they're not going to sign a contract on the off chance that this fucker gets injured and they don't get paid. They're going to advise them, no, let's go Chelsea. Sean says, we don't live in an ideal world, but we cannot want Qatar as owners because of your idea. Don't understand what that means. We don't live in an ideal world, but we cannot want Qatar as owners because of your idea. I don't know what that means. Stella Vega says, Steve, what's your thoughts on us having a full stand allocated to young local lads every week like Dortmund, and we get it rocking? The concourse was more rocking than the ground against Newcastle. Yeah, I'm always for that, and I would make it cheap tickets. Someone earlier said the club lost its identity when they started charging £66 per ticket. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that. And like I mentioned on that video, if it's 66 quid per season ticket, they've lost my dad. Like my dad said, he's not doing that if it's going to be 66 quid per ticket. So, yeah, it's obviously not a good thing. They're clearly hurting for money. I think that's the top and bottom of it. GB says, with finances so tight, is missing out on the Champions League this season more negative impact than previous times? Also on banana cream protein shake quality. I don't know if it's more impactful than previous times, but I think because of the way PSR and FFP is like this annual kind of game that you have to play, it's very important. I just don't think it's even likely for us. You know what I mean? I just think we're going to really struggle to do that. DG says, INEOS saw the books before they bought the club. This was well reported, so they knew exactly what they were getting into. Stop making excuses for them. I'm not making excuses for them. But also, regulations and punishments for regulations have increased since they took us over. Like, no one was getting fined points prior to them buying us 12 months ago. That's a new development in terms of like Forest and Everton being deducted points. That's new. That hadn't happened before. So regulation and punishment for regulation breaches is a new development since they bought us. And Manchester United, they probably thought Manchester United makes X, Y, and Z. We were in the Champions League at the time of that happening. We are now no longer in the Champions League. So things have changed. Where's that just gone? There was a comment I was going to read. Snap, I don't understand how grown adults who follow football can't understand it doesn't matter who owns us. We can't spend more than we make within limits. However, ideally new owners should have. Lewis says, good morning from Texas. Good morning. Twiz says, I don't particularly like the way INEOS have been operating, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Out of touch, rich, posh mofos. But all in this chat, what about Qatar would have done is just speculation. It is just speculation. David says, agents have more power over players than ever, influencing players while saying it's the player's interest. Yeah, fact. Dan says, this must be the reason why they want Rashford gone and recoup a huge amount from his wages. Yeah, I mean, if he's on, let's say he's on 300k, right? I'm not sure what he's on. That's what, 15 million-ish a year? That's so much money. That's so much money you've just recouped. Hodgie says, forgive me for being uninformed, but how are we still shafted by PSR and FFP? I thought with Scotty and others leaving, it would put us right. No. How does it put us right? That put us right last year. It's not a permanent fix. You have to stay right with it every single year. Apna says, Kieran Maguire and the overlap mentioned one club's possibly very close to PSR limits. Is he referring to United? I don't know who's referring to. And does that explain the cost cutting? It might, yeah. Until we see the finances at the end of the season, we're not going to know, are we? But yeah, it might. And I think United are having to do it because I think we're having to do it because they're obviously genuinely concerned about where things are going to go when it comes round to PSR. Either that or they're planning on going absolutely turbo with an overhaul and they need to get in as much money as they humanly can. Knight says the day this club starts treating the academy as nothing but pure profit instead of players that can fulfill their dreams in the first team is the day I'm gone. Just Tim Pot Chelsea. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Oliver says he also says it wasn't a team who plays in red. Oh, there you go then. Adam says apart from the picture used for fronting the bid, has Sheikh Jassim been seen since? Was the bid even real? I don't think there was a bid. I think there was a lot of talk about the bid, but there was never any actual bid. Chris says he said the team in question doesn't play in red. Hi from Perth. Hi Perth. Perth, you are the weirdest, most random city on earth. Well done. Daniken says PSR runs on a 2-year cycle, not every year. Yeah. Yes, but you still have to satisfy it every single year. And it's a 2-year revolving thing. So if you might be under it right now, go turbo and then you're over it. So you still have to satisfy it every single year. Akbar says, hello Steve, watching live after ages. Just wanted to say I finished watching Lioness, baller of a show. Yep, it is. On football, is Rashford off to Milan? Could we get a player back in Leao? But he's similar to Rashi. I think I wouldn't mind Rafael Leao, to be honest with you. I don't think you're getting anyone back for him. And, you know, I did a video with Joe, which I think came out this morning, where we're talking about how many players need to leave. My worry is that you don't get enough people coming in the other way. Ruben says, Monesty, are the lads heading to Kuala Lumpur for pre-season? That's a post-season one, correct? I think we're going to the Far East for a post-season friendly or two. I am not... It's not in my wheelhouse in terms of my planning to be going for them postseason friendlies. I'm too busy. I've kind of factored in going on preseason, which I think it's going to be America again, purely because of, like, I haven't heard anything. The club haven't confirmed anything. Purely because the World Cup being there next year, I think United commercially have to go to America. I think it's the biggest commercial market. I think they like the facilities. I can't imagine that they would go anywhere else. And I think that's why they're doing a Far East postseason tour, is because of they're going to go back to America. MK655 says, why do we need postseason? Have you not been listening? The fucking club's skint. They're going to do anything they can to grasp a little bit of cash. Them postseason tours, for me, they're not worth it. A couple of mil you're going to get for those tours, right? How much is it going to cost to take 50 to 80 people over to those tours? Because that's what we will take. That's what we will take. I think you're not getting that much money in. I don't think so. For the performance versus money that comes in, for me, it's not worth it. But I'm not in charge at the club, so I'm sure we're going to be going. Kyle says, Jim Ratcliffe has ripped the soul out of the club. Your stance is baffling. He's not ripped the soul out of the club. That's been incredibly fucking dramatic. He's done a couple of things which are a little bit iffy. Made a lot of people redundant. Clearly a lot of people were fucking tossing it off in their jobs. And that's why they've been made redundant. Putting the ticket prices up, don't agree with that. That doesn't mean... So what's my stance on that? My stance is I don't fucking agree with that. Make that make sense. He's not ripped the soul out of the club, has he? That's so fucking dramatic and false. He's literally trying to fucking get some cash back. Come on, man. Knights, didn't INEOS have the ability to pay off some of the debts to solve PSR? No, you can't do that. Like, unless they sponsor us. If they sponsor us, they can, yeah. But you can't just pay the debt off and be like, right, sweet. Tony says, would I sign any Nottingham player in summer? Probably not. Jimmy says, people have no critical thinking nowadays, Steve. You know what? They don't. People want... See, the length of most of these chats here, they're about 8 or 9 words long. That's most people's kind of length of chat. That's what people want opinions in. And sometimes, I'll do an hour-long video on something, and someone will be like, did you think X? Shit, mate. How are you summarising an hour-long video in 9 words? I couldn't even tell you what I spoke about in 9 words. Toby with a super chat. Cheers, Arkid says, evening from Adelaide. Good evening. What's the weather like? Enjoying the level-headed content lately amongst the constant broader negativity. I try. Notch says, could argue our soul was ripped out when we became a PLC. Could argue our soul got ripped out the second the Glazers took us over. I think Martin Edwards, for all of the abuse he used to get, and it's so funny when you go back and watch any content or read any content, because it's fanzines mainly, from the 90s, and listen to the opinion of people about the likes of Martin Edwards. He was fucking hated. But with the hindsight of 20 years of the Glazers, Martin Edwards was a fucking saint. He was an absolute saint. Just when you look at from a facilities point of view alone, let alone the commercial improvement or the fact that the team was being an absolute ledge on the field, right? So let's look. The 20 years prior to the Glazer takeover 2005, Martin Edwards, right? I might do a solo video on this because it's a topic I like. I've got his book up here somewhere. But it might be, I think it's at work. No, it's at work. So if I said to you, right, what do you judge an owner on? An owner, a CEO, an owner. What would you judge an owner on, right? Facilities, spending power, commercial success, team success. Something about the academy, right? There's like 5 things. I love 5 things. The 5 things that you would maybe judge Martin Edwards on. One, commercial success. Manchester United was making somewhere in the region of like £150 million profit, £200 million profit per season prior to the Glazers coming in. That immediately halved because we had to pay interest, like immediately, half as much. I think Spurs around 2003, 2004, 2005 were like second to us in the table. There's a comment there that says, stay out here defending the Shields. Did you learn what words mean, you fucking idiot? So Spurs were like second to us, but Spurs was like making next to nothing compared to us. That immediately went away. So Manchester United were a spending powerhouse because we were making so much commercial success. So commercially successful. Facilities. Around about 2000, we moved into Carrington, and it was a state-of-the-art facility. The stadium from 1985 to 2005 basically had gone from a fancy big non-league stadium to what it looks like now virtually, because there's nothing new happened since then. MK655 says, how can you judge the owner on them 5 things? For United, you judge them on 2 things, entertaining football and winning trophies. No, that's one of the fucking things that you judge them on. And also, you don't judge an owner on entertaining football. You judge managers on entertaining football and managers on trophies. Owners don't win trophies, you fucking idiot, right? Owners facilitate all of that happening. And from a facilities point of view, Martin Edwards did madness in the last 20 years prior to his takeover. And then you look at what the Glazers have done in the last 20 years. You know what I mean? And then you look at all of the other things. Like United was signing record commercial deals. We were spending money and making record signings without putting ourselves into debt. You know, in terms of ownership, Martin Edwards was fucking great for us, but he got a lot of abuse at the time. We were worried about the Glazers coming in because of what was going on with the debt. And, you know, it came not long after Leeds has already gone tits up. Rune says, calling your viewers idiots, good way to keep people around. Rune, they're idiots. I don't give a fuck if they stay around. How about that? And you can fucking join them. Don't let the door hit you on the arse on the way out, right? I'm not arsed. People are idiots, they're idiots. I would rather have less idiots and more sensible people involved in the chat. Because there are sensible people out there. They're just not as loud as the fucking idiots. Would I want Abramovich as an owner? No, because I don't think he's got the patience to see things through. I just don't think he does. I think... Do you know what? Having Abramovich as an owner is like having someone in this fucking chat with 1 billion owners. Stella Vega says, saw you driving the Landy down Chester Road on the way to the match. Class motor. It needs a lot of work, but I do enjoy it. The sunroof's leaking at the moment in this weather. It's not fun. Twiz says, Steve's not defending INEOS in all the decisions they have made. He's just saying that people are overdoing that they have had owners thing. That they are bad owners thing. People are so dim. They are. Ant says, and Edwards made sure we had 300 million cash in the bank as a slush fund too at all times. Yeah, the club were very, very, very well run under Edwards. And like I said, he was absolutely destroyed. You know, people didn't like him, fans didn't like him, the media took the piss out of him. What would you give to have Edwards back now and the club being run like it was? United didn't need, and do you know what? If it wasn't for the Glazers, United wouldn't need a sugar daddy. Like, United might need a sugar daddy right now because of the fucking debt these pricks have laid on us for the last 20 years. United have paid $1.5 billion and we still owe more than the day that they bought us. Make that make sense. Did we borrow it off fucking Wonga? Did they get a payday loan for us? How have we paid off over $1.5 billion for 20 years? Think about what $1.5 billion into the stadium would have done in the last 20 years. We have got nothing to show for it. The fact that they've owned us. We've just got worse as a football club. The fan base has been divided. We no longer support the people who sponsor the fucking club because there's this weird disconnect and guilt that you feel by buying anything and putting money into the pockets of people who support your football team. I can't wait till the day that they're fucking gone because I am sick of this fucking guilt kind of relationship that I have with my football team, wanting them to do well, but then fucking hating the people who own us. It's ridiculous. Twit says, all on the Glazers. Correct. Jason says, I watched Sunday's game against Liverpool. In your sister's bedroom was class. You didn't know, did you? You've never been in a girl's room, mate. MK says, we aren't winning because of our interest on our debt and we pissed another $1 billion or $2 billion on shit recruitment. Yeah, and again, that's down to the owners. The Glazers didn't put people in place to be successful. They put businessmen in place. They put a banker in place to make sure that the bank loan got paid and that we were commercially successful. But we weren't even that commercially successful because do you know what makes you commercially successful? Go and look at Manchester City. They've got about as many fans as fucking Wigan do, but they're making money because they are successful. If you want to make money in football, there's only a couple of ways to do it, and one of them requires winning trophies. That's it. Ruben says the media's helped perpetuate the divide between the fans to a certain degree. Fucking has, yeah. Townsend says we are 900 million in debt. We have paid 900 million in interest in 18 years. We're also we've seen 1.4 billion leave the club to fund the Glazer family and the books. Mental it's been allowed. Good luck, Jim. Fact. Apna says, not surprised by INEOS. This is their MO. Take underperforming assets, aggressively cut down to scale what they can substantially do or sustainably do, and then grow on their own with constant performance. Mohammed says, what can be worse than selling our soul depicted in our own homegrown players? Imagine selling gigs and skulls for money and still run your mouth about fixing us. But again, why is that even being considered? Because of the situation that we're in financially. Because of the Glazers. Because of that allowed to happen. Fuck me, man. The UK government took Abramovich out of Chelsea. They forced him to sell. They even changed the rules so something like Manchester United takeover can't happen again. Peter says the Glazers ruined United's chance of being a very dominant force with a competent owner that could utilise Sir Alex Ferguson and Gill's success to create a structure that could succeed them. Yeah. They just left them to it. They put no succession planning in whatsoever. I mean, to be fair, the day Sir Alex Ferguson resigned in 2002 and then reversed his resignation, Manchester United should have started the succession planning fucking then. And they didn't. Ben says, don't understand the Mainoo situation. Surely we want owners who keep our players on the toes and not just give daft contracts when they aren't playing good and we need to get rid of because we can't because of wages. Yeah, there's a massive balancing act. There is a massive balancing act, and you also have to give the players room to be able to get more money as well. Now, you might say to Mainoo, listen, yeah, you've gone from 20 grand, we're going to give you 80 grand with some fat bonuses in if we win some stuff. Chelsea might offer him 150, and he comes back and goes, Chelsea have offered me 150, and you're like, fuck's sake. Like, you then need to do, like, it's such a delicate balancing act. And the other thing is, it's a little bit like Liverpool with Mo Salah. They're in a situation right now where Mo Salah probably wants somewhere in the region of 400 grand a week. On one level, like when we were talking about Messi yesterday being on 2.6 million, on one level you go, he's fucking worth it, mate. 2.6 mil a week. Yeah, what's that? Fucking 100 mil a year. If I give you 100 mil, could you replace Messi? No. So you fucking pay him. But then it leaks out into the rest of the squad then, and you've got fucking problems trying to fix it. It's an absolute clusterfuck. A sensible wage structure. Manchester United had a sensible wage structure. Do you know who broke it? Roy Keane. And I love this as well, by the way. For all of the people that was like, Roy Keane was a fug, he wasn't even that good a fucking player. Manchester United broke their wage structure to keep him in the year 2000. When we had the likes of Giggs and Scholes and Beckham and all of that lot. The one who broke the wage structure was Roy Keane. We did that because he was so fucking good. Right? Manchester United had an extremely strict wage structure. You won't hear about this in any of the media because it doesn't fit the narrative that they want to put out. But the likes of Liverpool and Newcastle and Spurs and possibly Arsenal, although I'm not 100% sure on Arsenal in the 90s. But certainly Liverpool and Newcastle and Spurs all paid better than Manchester United paid. United did not offer good wages. You came to Manchester United to win stuff. You came to Manchester United to win stuff. People are talking about Rooney and Alexis Sanchez breaking the wage structure. No, Manchester United, I don't know what the structure was, but I remember very clearly it was Roy Keane that broke it. I think Rio also broke it when he did a negotiation after he'd been there a couple of years. Roy Keane was 2000. It was fucking before Wayne Rooney was. Wayne Rooney wasn't even in secondary school by the time fucking Keano was getting his deal done. So those players broke that structure, but they were worth it, and they could have gone like Newcastle could have, Blackburn, Newcastle, Liverpool. They were all paying significantly more than Manchester United were, and this is on the back of us winning the fucking treble. We were still underpaying our players. Where did I get my hat? Somewhere in Cornwall. Chris says we're still paying off the Alexis Sanchez deal today. It wouldn't surprise me if that was the case, to be honest with you. CTB says if fixing a wage structure hurts short term, perhaps losing key players like Mainoo, do I think it's worth it? I certainly do. My whole take on the Mainoo situation is that I think a lot of this noise is for a couple of reasons. One, it's Manchester United, so it's news. This is probably happening up and down the country in every single Premier League club. It's Manchester United, so it's news. Two, it's probably the agents trying to drum up attention. This is like when we were linked with Ramos every 5 minutes for about 3 years. It feels like it's a lot like that. Steve says Sky Sports reporting that Mainoo is happy and looking forward to a new contract. That's probably the truth. Mark says paying Mainoo 200k a week is fine on a 5-year deal. It's never a 5-year deal though, because 2 years in he redoes it. JBG says Chemo's absolutely worth it. Same with Rooney and Rio. Yeah, ultimately correct. Yeah. Apna says, I think the real problem has been the board of directors never using their brain to establish a structure that will only help them run the club smoothly. Yeah, and like the one thing that you can say with INEOS is they did that. They came into the club and they went, right, cool, we're appointing Barada and Wilcox, and they put people in place who know what they're fucking talking about. That was the first thing they did. So, while we haven't seen the fruits of that labour properly, I think that first window in the summer, largely successful outside of Xerxes, I think it'll take a long time before we actually see what the fallout of that is. I think it'll take us a long time to see the fallout of that. Jay says Chelsea want to give Mainoo a 10-year deal. Yeah, I mean, I'm still confused as to how Chelsea are under the FFP stuff, to be honest. It really doesn't make any fucking sense whatsoever. And is that part? Is the way Todd Boehly just flung $2.5 billion into them? I think that was what it was. Was that just before all the PSR shit came in? Did he know it was coming in? CTB says, I mean, hypothetically, if the Mainoo noise was legit, Would you lose Mainoo to make a statement and it be a first step to fixing the wage structure? Any fix is going to take 3 to 5 years to the wages. Yeah, I mean, I think Casemiro goes very soon. I think Rashford goes almost immediately. It might be January, it might be in the summer, but I think he's gone. There's Mason Mount's wages is a little bit on the high side. But yeah, you have to make a statement. And maybe you're able to implement bigger bonus type stuff, but you've got to take a long fucking time to do it, and you'll make mistakes in there as well. EB says apparently Dewsbury Hall is up for sale after 6 months. Chelsea is a nuts club, but they're trying to buy Mark Gay. Did they not realise that they already had a Mark Gay and they sold him or let him walk for free? Mark says, if INEOS sell Mainoo, what does that say to the academy players coming through? Play well, win the FA Cup, and we'll sell you anyway. I genuinely don't think any of them will give a fuck because they're professional players. They'll be like, wait, so I can come in, play, how many has he played? 60, 70 games maybe? And then get a big move and 250 grand a week somewhere. It's not the message that you think it is to the youngsters. Kunal says the Mainoo rumours are all part of the new age tactics. The agents do such things to the increased relevance, and the increased fan engagement across various media helps such rumours fly far. Totally agree. Johnny says, do I agree that the Prem are just as much to blame as the Glazers? They could have prevented situations such as what the Glazers have caused by putting in rules. There was it the fit and proper persons test at the time? Yeah, they could have asked for the business plan and the way they said it. They could have just refused to do it and refused to sanction the deal because it had to be sanctioned. Marcus says, Steve, stop being thick. If Sir Jim didn't give the Glazers what they wanted, they would have had no choice but to sell. What time's your carer coming round, mate? The reason Jim's bought us, I believe, is because he thinks he can fix us. We don't know if he can fix us until we find out whether he can fix us. But how can him not buying us help fix us? If we take him at face value as him being a United fan that wanted to get involved, then that's that, isn't it? Matt says, Euro's on those wages because he's one of the best centre-back prospects in the world and we're genuinely lucky to have him. We also probably had to pay him a little bit because Real Madrid were in the mix. Knight says the club still owes 400 million or something on outstanding transfer fees, by the way. I don't think people realise quite the shit that we're in. Yeah. Righty, I'm going to wrap it up. I've got a video coming out later today about Amorim. So check that out if you're around. And I might do a late night live tonight because I'm expecting that there's going to be some movement on some of these transfers today. And I might make it members only chat because I can't be arsed going to bed after a fucking session like this with the amount of pure sausages. Do you know what? I've done a couple of members only chats and they've been fucking ledge. They've been really entertaining. They've been really good questions. They've been nice, intelligent contributions. But the fuckwits in the chat have made me think that I might never do a fucking non-members only chat ever again because I can't be arsed with yous. All right? Anyway. Take it easy. Hey, do you know what? If you're a knob, I hope you have a horrible day. But if you sound, like most of you are sound, I hope you have a good day. See you in a bit. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.